Fair, spoiler-free reviews of the newest films. Vaughn on Movies.
Brought to you by GetInAnyway.com. Hey there, I'm Vaughn Fry. This week I'm reviewing the movie that I expected to be the biggest movie of the summer, Iron Man 2. Robert Downey Jr. returns as billionaire weapons designer slash stand-up comedian Tony Stark. Oh, and I forgot to mention he's also a superhero because he has a reactor in his chest pulling shrapnel away from his heart and empowering an iron suit. This time around, the US Senate wants to acquire his Iron Man suit, which Tony isn't giving up without a fight. This introduces us to the arms race to replicate Stark's technology, and leading the way is Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell. He's the Bill Gates to Tony's Steve Jobs, evidenced by the stress on their competing expos. When Stark's showboating leads to a curiously well-timed showdown with a vengeful Russian named Ivan Vanko, Mickey Rourke, Hammer sees an opportunity to fund a project to surpass Tony's and win a lucrative military contract. Ivan has other ideas in mind, and this forces Tony to get his act together. So, let's start with some good news. Watching Iron Man 2 is more exciting than playing Final Fantasy XIII. Truth be told, there are some funny lines and some quality moments derived from comic book mayhem. There's also a ton of falsified marketing. Iron Man 2 is the kind of movie that'll get your hopes up only to squash them with a ridiculous subplot. There is a tremendous lull in the action because Tony is forced to discover a cure for a blood-polluting toxin found in his vital arc reactor. It's not terribly interesting, and it's brought in for what I like to call the Batman effect. A costume change for the purpose of selling toys. I know the first film wasn't action-heavy. It was the origin story of Tony Stark and how he became Iron Man, a guy with shrapnel in his heart, and he has to put a reactor in it to pull it away, and it powers a suit made of iron. It was filled with witty jokes and banter between Stark and his secretary Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and sometimes between Stark and his liaison to the military, Colonel Rhodes. Well, for some reason, it was decided to take out those sincere moments and replace them with interloping arguments. When stars don't sign on for a sequel, especially one where they become a superhero, you can see that as a red flag. If I may, I have a theory behind why Terrence Howard walked away from this. It is established quite successfully in the first film that the Iron Man suit is difficult to control. It took Tony, the suit's inventor, a great deal of time to master simple tasks. Yet somehow Rhodey is able to hop into one for what I presume is the first time and do everything. Then Rhodes willingly and stupidly betrays his better judgment. I understand that there's a plan in place to make Rhodes the superhero known off-screen as War Machine. It just bothers me that they would take the potent Iron Man suit and add guns to it like that makes any difference. By now, I'm not even sure anyone directed this film. These Marvel sequels look so much alike. They just play the same tune for an encore. It's filmmaking by committee. Some scenes could have been trimmed down. Take, for example, the protracted Senate hearing. In the first film, Tony was a charismatic guy. A bit of a jerk, but he made up for it with redeeming actions, and over the course of the film, changed himself for the better. In Iron Man 2, he takes a step back in all regards. In fact, the only time I laughed was at the timing of Sam Rockwell's character. Additionally, Paltrow is completely wasted. Scarlett Johansson shows up to provoke catcalls, and Samuel L. Jackson is there to inform you that there's a movie coming out called The Avengers. And of course, before I can give out my final score, I have to give a shout out to Tom Bramer for answering this week's Pop Quiz Hotshot trivia question. Be sure to look for those on Twitter, Sundays, midnight Central Time. Iron Man 2 isn't the worst sequel by Marvel. Thank you, Spider-Man 3. It is at its best entertaining in parts, and it won't make you hate the rest of the film. I give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. Consider that a half-hearted suggestion for those of you who can't man up and watch Kick-Ass. I'll see you guys next time.